All right, today we are breaking down the really high-stakes trade dispute between the United States and India. And trust me, this is way more than just a disagreement. It's turned into a full-blown, tense geopolitical standoff.
So, let's just get right into it. After things kept escalating, the US has slammed certain Indian goods with tariffs as high as 50%. Yeah, you heard that right, 50! This isn't just some minor tweak to trade policy. No, this is economic hardball on a massive global scale.
So, why are two of the world's biggest democracies locked in such a bitter fight? Well, it's not just about the money, and it's not really about market access either. This is a story that's all about history, about survival, and for India, it's about one absolutely non-negotiable red line. To really get what's happening right now, we've got to go back in time.
You know, tariffs have been around forever. They started out as something simple, like the nishatam, way back in ancient Mesopotamia, basically just a tax to make some money. But oh boy, did they evolve. They became weapons. Look at the British Calico Acts, specifically designed to protect their own industry from Indian imports. And then you have the infamous Smoot-Hawley Act, which basically kicked off a global trade war and made the Great Depression even worse. And the crazy part? All of this led to the creation of the modern World Trade Organization, the very system that was supposed to prevent exactly this kind of fight from happening ever again. Okay, so for India to understand why they are so fiercely protective, especially when it comes to one specific thing, we have to talk about an old wound. A really painful memory from the 1950s. It's the ghost of something called PL 480, a deal that started out looking like a helping hand, but, well, it ended up teaching a lesson that India would never, ever forget.
So here's the scene. It's 1956. After World War II, America has this huge surplus of grain. So much, they literally didn't know what to do with it. Meanwhile, India is in the grip of a devastating famine and is desperate for food. It seems like a perfect solution, right? A win-win. So they made a deal, officially known as Public Law 480.
But here's where the story takes a dark turn. The reality of that aid was something else entirely. According to tons of reports from back then, the wheat the US sent was, and I'm quoting here, only fit for pigs, not for humans. It was just terrible quality. But what could India do? People were starving, they had absolutely no choice but to take.
And this deal did a lot more than just provide some short-term relief. It created a huge, crippling dependency. Think about it. Cheap American grain just floods the Indian market. And what happens? It completely crushes the local Indian farmers. It got so bad that within just a few years, a mind-boggling 40% of all the wheat India needed was coming from the United States.
And then, that dependency became a weapon. Fast forward to the 1965 India-Pakistan War. The US suddenly threatened to cut off the food supply. Just stop it. They were using the threat of starvation as a political tool to try and force India's hand. That moment, right there, burned a lesson deep into the nation's soul. Never again. Never ever again would India allow its ability to feed its own people to be controlled by another country.
And that history, that's the key to everything we're seeing today. It explains why, in this modern trade war, India's farmers and its entire agricultural sector are an absolute, non-negotiable red line. And it really boils down to two huge threats.
Okay, threat number one is just simple math: the cost of competition. You see, US agriculture is massively subsidized, which means American farmers can produce things like corn and milk for way cheaper. If India just threw its doors open, that cheaper produce would come flooding in and it would totally wipe out local Indian farmers. And this isn't just a theory. We've seen this movie before. After a similar trade deal with the US, Mexico saw more than 2 million of its farmers leave their land because they just couldn't compete.
Then there's threat number two, the dependency trap. Some call it the Monsanto model, and India has already had a painful taste of this. Here's how it works. A company sells patented, genetically modified seeds. These seeds require a specific, also patented, chemical to grow. So farmers get locked in. They can't legally save and replant their own seeds anymore. They have to buy new ones every single year. And over time, the company can just keep raising the prices for both the seeds and the chemicals, trapping farmers in this endless cycle. So when you put it all together, you realize that for India, this is so much bigger than just economics. We're talking about the livelihood of almost half the entire population. It's about protecting a dairy sector that involves 400 million people. And then you have the deep cultural issues, like the fact that US cattle are often fed non-vegetarian feed, which is a complete non-starter in India. Not to mention the risk that if their crops get contaminated with GMOs, they could lose their own export markets to places like the EU. This is why that door to their agriculture market isn't just closed, it's bolted shut.
Okay, so that's India's side of the story. That explains their position perfectly. But what about the timing? why is all this pressure coming from the US right now? Why did this all blow up when it did? Well, the answer to that question involves another huge player on the world stage. You see, when President Trump kicked off his global trade war, there was one main target: China. Just look at the numbers from 2017. The trade deficit with China was massive, making it the undeniable target number one for the new tariff strategy. But China didn't just sit there and take it. Oh no, they hit back, and they hit back smart. They knew exactly where it would hurt the US the most: American farmers, who are a key part of the president's political support. So China slapped huge retaliatory tariffs on US agricultural goods, things like soybeans, and just like that, a multi-billion-dollar market vanished overnight.
And that move put the US in a really tough spot. All of a sudden, its own farmers were getting crushed, and Washington desperately needed to find a new place to sell all that American produce. They needed an alternative market. And when you scan the globe for a country big enough, with enough people to possibly buy all that stuff, there was really only one candidate: India.
And what happened next was just a classic tit-for-tat, an escalating standoff. The US tried to apply pressure by taking away India's special duty-free access. India wouldn't budge on farming and hit back with a new digital tax on American tech companies. So the US imposed tariffs, India held firm, and basically put the brakes on any talks about a bigger free trade deal. And that is how we got to the unbreakable stalemate we're in today.
So, with billions of dollars at stake and all this history of mistrust, who's going to blink first? Here's what you should really take away from all this. For the United States, this is about fixing a trade imbalance and finding a new market for its incredibly powerful farming industry. But for India, this is about so much more than just tariffs. It's about the ghost of PL 480. It's about that fundamental promise of self-sufficiency. It's about the memory of what it feels like to be dependent on someone else for food, and the absolute unshakable resolve to never let that happen again.